Have you heard of status neutral? What does it mean to be status neutral? Well, it describes a world where HIV is no longer transmitted and its damaging stigma has been removed. In this world, we're all treated the same, regardless of our status. Each person, positive or negative, receives full and equal attention. And no, it's not too good to be true. Creating a status-neutral world is possible and could end the HIV epidemic in a single lifetime. But before we can get there, we must take a look at our history. Starting in 1981, a rare illness arrived in the U.S. and had many prejudiced labels due to its connection to homosexual men. The media didn't pay much attention to this disease until women, heterosexual men, and infants were affected. And by fall of 1982, this disease finally had a name: Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, better known as AIDS. In 1983, the CDC identified at-risk groups. There wasn't much knowledge about HIV and its link to AIDS, which left the door wide open for stigmatization. AIDS patients were often isolated from family and friends, fired from work, and denied care from healthcare workers who feared the virus. Much of the stigma lives on, but ending that must be the first step to building our status-neutral world. No group of people is more likely to contract HIV than any other. Behaviors carry the risk, not the person. Many, including the US government, ignored HIV, even as it began to affect more people. But the community at large took action. Whitman Walker Health was the first responder to the epidemic by establishing DC's first testing program and opening one of the first clinics for AIDS patients. Their action and that of many other organizations was instrumental in providing care and support for those living with HIV. Their work and activism helped develop trials for HIV treatments, making status neutral possible. But how do we achieve it? HIV treatments like AZT are crucial, but not everyone had access. Though AZT was widely used in 1995, it didn't always get to those who needed it most. And once the epidemic hit American soil, it wasn't long before HIV disproportionately affected the Black community. How did it happen that Black people are 13% of the US population, but 42% of new HIV cases? It started and still continues with the lack of access to hospitals and quality health care in majority Black neighborhoods, leading many African Americans to less favorable settings, like emergency rooms with no continuity in care. Most also lack access to affordable medication, which is critical in managing HIV. In 1996, everything changed with highly active antiretroviral treatment. When it's taken consistently, it can reduce an HIV patient's viral load so much that the virus is undetectable in the blood, making it impossible to transmit. Did you catch that? Undetectable equals untransmittable. Treatment put a status-neutral world within reach. And it's happening here. There are about 12,000 people living with HIV in DC, but the number of newly diagnosed cases dropped 79%, thanks to the implementation of a plan in 2016 by Mayor Bowser and the DC Department of Health. It aimed for 90% of DC residents living with HIV to know their status, receive treatment, and reach viral suppression. Preventative actions like regular HIV and STD testing, condom distribution, PrEP, PEP, needle exchange programs, and others are moving us toward a status-neutral world. PrEP is a daily pill that reduces the risk of contracting HIV by up to 92%, while PEP can be taken within 72 hours after possible exposure. Sounds great, right? But less than half of the patients prescribed PrEP are members of Black and brown communities, which are most affected by HIV. HIV stigma makes many reluctant to get tested, disclose their status to their partners, or seek care. But research and treatment have made HIV completely manageable. People living with HIV are thriving. Each day we're closer to a status-neutral world, made possible by PrEP and U equals U. There's no shame in being sexually active, talking about HIV, or knowing your status. We must remove the artificial lines that separate us from care and prevention. To know your status, go to getcheckeddc.org for a free at-home HIV test kit for DC residents. Learn more about PrEP, PEP, and U equals U at sexualbeing.org.